The frequency of healing is ancient, and it's calling the women who remember. Our next guest is summoning a new wave of conscious millionaires. Want to be the next one? Hi, and welcome to the You World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, and transformational coaches stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to help coaches and entrepreneurs amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible, leveraging podcasts and Substack. Today, we are chatting with Joanna Hunter, who is an author, the channel of Skylar, 6 to 7 figure spiritual business creatrix, Be Magic Activator, and Lightweb Oracle. Lightweb Oracle. Welcome to the show, Joanna. It's nice to have you back again.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be back here and talk all the things.
I know. We've had a connection for a couple of years now, and so many really yummy synchronistic things have happened in my life because of the relationship I've had with you and the things that you have created to really further the world. But I'm going to ask you the big question first, and then we will dive right into all the stuff. So, what's the most significant thing, in your opinion, as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
There is a twofold part for me. So heal your self relationship, which automatically heals your relationship with source, because you are your own source connection. Most human beings, in the way that the world is currently going, have quite awful relationships with themselves, which impacts their daily lives. It creates suffering, it creates a lot of heartache. And this is why in my humble opinion, we have things like war, famine, stuff like that, these big problems. If everybody took their personal relationship super, super, super serious, we would get to a place and a level of consciousness where it would be really abhorrent for us to have and others to not have.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. We need to start focusing on ourselves, because once we heal ourselves, the energy just goes out, and other people can't help but start to heal themselves. And
Yeah.
as we can do that with our children, even better, because it's what
It is
is
that
going to
self
change the world.
relationship. It is that self relationship, because that self relationship is a link and a chain. And the next link is your connection to source. And source is the source of everything. So, you want to have more abundance in your life. You want to have more money in your life. You want to have more love in your life. Whatever it is that you desire, it will be found at the vibration and frequency of source. And so, if you are your own source connection and your own relationship with yourself is not great, then your connection with source is not great either. And no wonder you're in lack, no wonder you're suffering, no wonder things are difficult and hard, because that relationship is literally on the fritz.
You one time said that the connection with source is either on or off. It's like a light
Yeah, it's
switch.
an
I
on-off system, yeah. So if source is on, the polar opposite of that energy, which we call the void in my world, is off. But if the void is on, source is off. And when we're in the thick of the void, that is a contracted state of being. Your worldview begins to shift. So instead of things happening for you, which is the worldview at source, the worldview at the void is the world is out to get you. It's hard, it's difficult. People are there to do you wrong, and all of those things. And so when we're thick in the void, we experience a lot of our shadow self. So we experience what we call the 4 shadow archetypes. So those archetypes are what connects us to our internal victim story, and we begin to feel victimized by life. And the deeper we go into the void, the deeper we feel these victim energies. And as a result, life gets darker and more shadow. So it feels like the walls are closing in on you. Everything feels very immediate. Things start to spiral and feel like now it's hopeless. And it's an on-off system. And I think one of the most powerful kind of teachings that Skylar has channeled through me is that you can't make source out of void. So there has to be a moment in your life, in your space, where you put the void down. And in the action of putting the void down, you flip the switch and you move into source. So an example of this, just a kind of very basic layman's term example of this, would be you're in a downward spiral, you're thinking lots and lots of negative thoughts. While you're in that spiral, you're still subject to the universal laws. So law of attraction is attracting more negative thoughts. The law of expansion is working not in your favor in that moment, because it is expanding the negative thoughts. So this is why you have like one negative thought and then suddenly like you're sitting under your duvet rocking, eating a whole pint of Ben and Jerry's, wondering, questioning your life choices, and that was like, that spiraled quickly. But this is why. And so what we have to do is that realization, okay, well, I can't make source from this state of energy. I have to be willing to put it down. So what am I going to do? Okay, well, I can pick up my gratitude journal and I can switch my focus to gratitude, which is flipping that switch, because gratitude aligns with source energy. It's impossible to feel love and not to feel gratitude for something. And so gratitude connects us to love. And since source is love, we connect again to source. But we had to be willing to put down the void. We had to be willing to pry our fingers off the spoon for the Ben and Jerry's, put the Ben and Jerry's back in the freezer. We had to take the duvet off. We had to do the action that led to flipping the switch. So I think that's a really powerful and potent teaching, because many people sit in the void and keep spiraling in the void, as opposed to realizing, this isn't helping me. I need to put this down and focus on something that is going to bring the light into my life.
It sounds so simple, but it is so powerful. I just literally, as you practice these arts, because it really is an art of being able to say, oh, oh no, I'm not going down this path. When those thoughts happen, because they happen to all of us, no matter how spiritually advanced someone is, there are those arrows that come through and they're like, are you really that good? There's no reason for it, but it does show up. And instead of like going down the path of, well, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm making this all up, just recognizing, hey, I have a choice to listen to that thought, to even entertain that thought. Just because a thought shows up doesn't mean we have to
Go
make
on the
space
roller
for it.
coaster.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
It's
we
just
have
like
a
the
choice.
car showing up. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. They're options, and we can choose. And I mean, I never ever thought, at one stage in my life was very dark indeed. I had chronic illness in my body. I had a lot of struggle. I had a lot of financial struggle. I had all of these things. So I'm not speaking from a place of like complete privilege. I've never known poverty or anything like that. Far from it. I've been through all of those states, and if back in that day, if somebody had said to me, poverty is a choice, being in lack is a choice, being in struggle is a choice, probably would have smacked them, but now I'm fully aligned with that idea. But the thing is that it's not very helpful for somebody to hear, listen, the fact that you're struggling is a choice. That is not helpful when you're in the struggle. But what is more helpful is practical steps on how you can shift the vibration, how you can shift the frequency. And that's where Skylar comes in, and kind of led me into that light filled life. And in 2021, my business crossed $1 million for sales in one calendar year. And that was, from where I'd come from to where I went, that's a 180 complete reverse direction to where I'd once been in life. At one point I had been £120,000 in personal debt, and that wasn't a mortgage. That was just money owed out with no asset secured against it, and using these teachings, I was able to pay that debt down in 2 years, not even working full time, and so every single piece of teaching that I received from Skylar is just been this unfoldment, and the privilege is now I get to teach the teachings to other people. And their biggest teachings really center around our connection to source, that source is that storehouse of everything that you have wanted and desired for your human experience. And so it's really powerful. It's really powerful. And what I love is that it can take someone who is in this like really, really bad place and begin to lay a path out in front of them. But the thing with a path is you have to be willing to walk the path, you know, and that is always a challenge when you're in that place, right? Because when you're in that dark place, the biggest fear that you hold is, it's a really cool British saying, but it's like you don't want to go out the frying pan into the fire. You don't want to make things worse. And so your fear governs a lot of your choices in that, because you're so afraid that you're going to make things worse, and this is one of the reasons when, for instance, my $1 million experiment, which I know we're going to talk about, but that was, why I made it so attainable at $25, and why I also ran an affiliate program with it that gave a 50% affiliate, so that there really wouldn't be a barrier to learning. There really wouldn't be a barrier to this information. Because I think, when you're in that bad way and you're in that place, it is really hard. And $25 once upon a time for me was, hang on a minute, let me think about whether I want to make that investment or not. It was a real, let me think about this. That was a chunk of money for me at one point in time. And so it's such a privilege to be able to offer like amazing training that is, that has the power to make big waves and big transformations.
I was telling you just before we started recording about I was introduced to you by somebody else who was a friend of mine. Um, and she's like, this $1 million experiment's happening, and I found out about it in November of 2023. You were bringing it back out, and so I knew I wanted to do that, so I hopped in, and then I told everybody about it because I thought it was such a great idea, and then I also uh, took your healing abundance course
Heal your
because
abundance, yeah,
yeah.
with the heal framework.
Yeah, and it's a 4 week. It was the thing that really attracted me to it was a 4 week program. I started in November. I knew in January I was going to want to manifest the $1 million. And so I wanted to get all prepared for it. So I went through that. And then from new moon in November, I'd gone through the course, and I'm the kind of person that I just go through the whole course. It doesn't normally take me like 4 weeks to do stuff. Though it should. I've had coaches that are like, no, you have to do it in 4 weeks. I said 4 weeks, so you do 1 week this way,
Oh,
and
you can race
but
ahead of
yours,
my world.
but your world, it's like, oh, whatever you want to do, sister, go. So I did. And so from new moon in November to new moon in December, I manifested $54,000. I set an intention to manifest 50. And I kind of had in the back of my mind, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. And I'd set all the stuff up, and I was doing this workshop, and, because that's how I am. It's like, I'm going to do this, but I know exactly how it's going to happen. And it didn't happen that way at all. It was my father-in-law actually ended up passing and left us $54,000. And it was unexpected,
Unfolded really quick. Yeah.
and just like right on the money for when the manifestation or the intention had been set. So then January rolls around, and it was the year of the dragon, and I was buying lottery tickets because I was sure that's how I was going to get that $1 million, and doing some other things that as things came along. um I didn't manifest $1 million in that year, but this year in January I was introduced to uh an investment thing that I don't even sell anything. It's just that I can invite people to join if I want to. They can join if they want or not. They're not giving me any money. This investment thing makes the money for me. And I will have $1 million in this account by September of this year. It's just like,
Unreal.
that's the numbers. It's gonna happen. It was just like one of those things that A, if you're open, and B, if you're like, you're not telling the universe this is how it has to show up. You're letting the universe like, is this
Yeah,
it?
the
Is
how
this
is the
it? Is this
domain of
it?
the universe. And it's really hard, isn't it, when we humans try and control all the things and
Mm-hmm.
we try and impose our how on it. And what we do is, I always feel like the universe is this amazing chef, but in order for the chef to be amazing, we have to give the chef elbow room to work. And that's the moment that we realize we have to take our hands off the how. The how will be shown to us, the way will be shown, the whole thing will be unfolded for us, which is a really hard concept because most people are like, but how, and the truth is, you'll wonder how you do it until you do it. You'll wonder how you do it until you do it, and that is, and so the unfoldment of that will is always a kind of thing. But while we try and meddle, we're just spoiling the dinner that the chef is making. We're just spoiling it, like we're interfering. And our remit as a human being is to dream and do. So we've got to dream the dream. The how is the domain, and the between the dream and the the doing, there is the how. But that little piece in the middle, that's the universe. That's its job to show you the how, to reveal the how to you. And then as the how is revealed to you, then it's your job to do. So it looks like, I always think about Hansel and Gretel and following the little crumbs, like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's exactly what it is. The universe will leave these little crumbs for you to begin to follow and stuff. And often there is a level between the dream and the doing. The dream, if you dream big enough, like $1 million for most people can be like a really, really big dream. And if you dream big enough, the joy with dreaming big enough is that it's a dream that activates you. And that means the dream itself contains energy, and the dream itself literally wants to be birthed. But we have to let go of that how, because our how is limited to our personal experience. The how of the universe is everybody who ever was, everybody who ever is, everybody who ever will be. They're drawing from that much, much superior base of how this can unfold. And I'm always like shook on how the universe unfolds things, because it's, sometimes it's bananas how things have unfolded for me. We made a decision at the house that I'm sitting in right now, that we made a decision that we decided we wanted to move. It was the tail end of the pandemic. We decided to, like, okay, we want to move house. We don't know, like, if there's going to be another lockdown or anything like that, but like, let's do it in luxury. And we didn't have a single penny for a deposit at that point in time. And we made the decision in January of 2021, and in July 17th we moved into this house. And and even the estate agent was like, I don't know, it's like just green lights all the way through. Like, I can't believe, like, we saw the house in the mid-May, and 2 months later we were like literally living in it. And it was just like boom, boom, boom. And the money came and everything came, and everything just like unfolded. But I didn't focus on the how. I was really good in that manifestation of really letting go of that how. I was like, what will be, will be. It'll just unfold as it's meant to unfold. And so we were just taking the nudges. And like, one of the really cool nudges was, we had said, We do not want to be packing boxes. We do not want to be doing the humping ourselves because we by that time we'd moved a lot. And so we were like, we're so over the moving situation. Like we'd really like, and I'm scroll like two, like I literally, those words were out of my mouth. I was scrolling Facebook and I seen a guy that I'm friends with on Facebook, and he shared his friend's removal company. And it's these lads, they work offshore, and then when they're not working offshore, they have a van and they will move your stuff. And so I reached out to the guy and I said, hey, we're like planning on moving in this date. And he said, we're home that date, we can do it, no problem. And that was that. And they were the loveliest lads. And they had us moved in ship shape in a day, and it was wonderful. And they were really careful, they really wrapped our stuff really well, and it was the whole thing just joyful. And then the day before, the exact amount that the removal people, even though I had the money already, but actually the exact amount for the removal people came into our bank account as well. So it was like I already had the money aside for them, but then it was like the universe was like, oh, here you go, like free money. Here you go, and you can pay these guys this. And it was just perfect.
I love those kinds of stories. I've moved so many times in my life and bought houses, and it just like, they talk about you don't really need money to buy a house. It's true. You don't really need
Yeah.
money to buy a house. What you need is the intention, and you need to have an idea of what you want. And then you need to go and feel the energy in all these houses that you're going through. And the right house will pick you, and then it will be easy. I've bought probably 8 houses in my lifetime, bought and sold 8 houses. And every one of them has been like some miracle thing happened in order for it to actually take place.
Mm,
Just like I
it's
even bought
amazing
a
how it unfolds.
I bought a house sight unseen. We were moving out of state, and we had some friends that lived in that state, and they went and looked at houses, and she's like, well, you could probably live in this house. So we bought it. The realtor was really nervous. He's just like, we closed in California and we drove over, and in the middle of the night we're trying to find this house that we bought. We had no idea where it was.
Oh my goodness. That's an exercise in trust. That's an exercise in trust right there.
Yeah, and it was a great house. I have really good memories of that house. But yeah, it's fun if you live in that flow where you just let things happen.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of suffering is because we hold too tightly in the energy. Like we hold too tightly in the energy. We're too afraid of loss. We're too afraid. And here's the problem with that is that what you focus on, you get more of. So the more that your being and your body holds that fear, the more fear shows up for you. And it's a vicious cycle, right? Because then the more afraid you become, and so you just go round and round and round. And this is where this teaching of like, well, you have to set the void down, right? You have to, at some point, you have to decide, I'm breaking up with drama, I'm breaking up with fear. We are never, ever getting back together, a la Taylor Swift. And we have to focus where it is that we want to go. And that was one of my biggest shifts that I made is I stopped thinking about what could go wrong and I started to think about what could go right. And it was such a simple mindset shift, but it was huge, right? But I used to be the what if queen, the negative what if queen. Now I'm the positive what if queen. Well, what if it all works out? What if it turns out even better than you expected? What if it surprises you in pleasant and amazing ways? Like it's so easy to make that shift. And yet we're so drawn to the negative. And that's because our brains have a negative bias, because the negative bias is what keeps the organism that is you alive. right? If you can spot all the dangers in your environment, you're most likely going to survive longer. But we live in a world now where like we have internet and Amazon and all of these things, you know, so we have all of these things now. So we don't need to be so hyper vigilant anymore.
And sometimes if you can shift your hypervigilance from fear-based things, the what can go wrong things, to what's going right, and just be like
Mhm.
hyper vigilant about the little gifts that come along. I my tree. I planted this tree in my backyard. It was a transplant from my son's house. And I wanted this tree to live, and it all leaves shriveled up, and I was like out there talking to it, please live, please live. I planted you next to these other babies. So I know the mama tree is giving you all the nutrients. Please live. And I was getting ready to actually, I had my hand on it to pull it out of the ground and realized there were all these little green buds on it.
Oh,
That was
amazing.
last year. This year it's full of leaves. It's living.
It's living. It's living its best life. We love
It's
that
living
that
its
tree.
best life. This buddy's right next to it.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Yeah, we love that for that tree. That's like, and that's amazing. And it's also the power of human energy interacting with other energy, right? Like
Oh
this
yeah.
is like we are powerful creators, very, very powerful creators. And you can use your power of creation to destroy, and you can use your power of creation to create. And I think, you know, a lot of us unwittingly, unknowingly, through no fault of our own, just through the negativity of what we've been maybe surrounded with or grown up with, are using it to destroy our lives, where instead we, you know, we could so easily just flip that switch and use it to create a life by design, a life of our dreams. And that's, you know, what we really teach. It's one of the things that we teach within the light web community, of really creating, you know, stepping into your creator power, stepping into becoming the creator that you are, and owning that wholly, fully, and completely. And that's why, you know, students in that program experience what we call like a before and after effect. They'll talk about, well, I used to think like this before light web, but now I think like this after, because it has that, there's a shift in consciousness that happens, and people move from the human operating system of I think and I question. Now, on the surface, most people, when they encounter my description of the human operating system, which is I think and I question, most people will say, well, thinking's good and questioning's good. And I do not argue with that. Both are really good. But you can start to see how the human could get very exhausted. You're thinking and you're questioning through everything, right? It's slowing the roll. It's taking you out of the flow because you're having to think, you're having to question, you're thinking, questioning, thinking, questioning. It's relentless and very, very quickly. Even just saying, I think and I question, you can feel the exhaustion in your inside in your own body. And
Mm.
so in Lightweb, what we do is we help to upgrade people into what I call the operating system of the soul, which is I know and I trust. So you move into your knowing, and your response to life becomes I trust. So I know and I trust. So now because you're in your knowing and you're operating from your knowing, like imagine making decisions from knowing as opposed to thinking. Thinking you're like, well, it could go either way. Knowing, you either know it's going to go your way or not go your way, right? So you're in the knowing, and therefore your response becomes I trust, which gives a much easier, much smoother ride to being human. And so that's the power of Lightweb. And of course, this year it's really exciting because, you know, we've got the Lightweb deck coming out, which is, I cannot wait. And, you know, the amazing Anna Babbage and Steph Wicker Campbell did the artwork. And oh my God, the artwork is so lush.
I've seen some of the images that you've been posting over on Facebook, and it's very exciting. It's really exciting. You actually kind of have a step by step, call it a stack of
It's a
offers.
process. Yes, there is a process. There is method to the madness.
Yeah. Why don't you share how it all weaves together to help people become a conscious millionaire?
So In the path to a conscious millionaire, what the overall arching thing that we teach is we teach light web, which is our kind of overarching teaching, and it's really transitioning somebody from a kind of more asleep state of being into an awakened state of being. And we have four main pillars for that. So we have the pillar of the self, then we have the pillar of the soul, then we have the pillar of service, and then we have the pillar of source. So the way that we work with all of this, like these three pillars, is that yourself is your foundation. So if your relationship is, when you asked me the first primary question today, and I was like, well, it's twofold. You need to improve your relationship with yourself so that you can improve your relationship with source. So that's two of the pillars. The piece in the middle is soul and service.
Mm-hmm.
So once you've repaired your self relationship, you will automatically start to connect more deeply with your soul. Why do you want to connect more deeply with your soul? Well, your soul already has all the answers because your soul is always connected to source. So it has all the answers. It knows exactly how to make you wealthy. It knows exactly how to find the love of your life, to attract that love of your life in. It knows exactly how you can move from a tiny little apartment into a big sprawling house if that is your dream, if that is your choice. So it is a great idea to connect with your soul, and it's a great idea to learn to speak the language of your soul, which is a brand new language. And your soul doesn't speak English, it speaks light and it speaks intuition. So learning to interpret your intuition, learning to work with your intuition. So we do that in my world. The first course that we work with the self is called Unity, and my book is called Get Selfish. So it's really getting yourself, the way is through. Get selfish, the way is through. And so then it's unity. And then for the soul pillar, we call it Be Your Own Rescue, because the soul is the one that can lead you to wherever it is that you want to go. But you have to become the one that can lead yourself. And so Be Your Own Rescue, the concept of Be Your Own Rescue is simply, if you're looking for rescue, you cannot occupy the space of the one that will lead themselves if you're always hoping, praying, wishing that someone else is going to come and do it for you, right? Like, here's the bad news: no one is coming. And it's good news as well, but it is bad news. No one is coming to rescue you. Nobody's coming to help you. And it's quite hard when you hear that for the first time and you realize, like, oh, snap. The reason the universe will never send rescue is because you've always been enough to do the job yourself. So in order to send rescue, I would literally have to tell you that, oh, hey, poor little you're not enough. Can be further from the truth. You are so capable. You are so enough. This is why the universe will never send rescue. And this is why we have to decide to be our own rescue. So that is about stepping into that soul leadership and letting your soul lead. Your soul has the answers. It's connected to source all the time, and it's going to give life a much easier ride. Once yourself and your soul are connected, abundant energy begins to flow in your being. And this is when you're ready to start sharing the light that is you, because everybody in the whole world has a unique flavor of light. Like, you have a unique flavor of light that is unique to you. To put it in a scientific term, there is no two humans that operate on the same vibration and frequency. Everybody has a complete unique vibration and frequency. So from the science, if your service to the world is to put that vibration and frequency into the world. And so in the pillar of the service, we have a program called Divine Planning Abundant Profits, where we teach you how to kind of monetize your genius and monetize and put your service out into the world, whether you're a coach, whether you're we've got so many amazing businesses in there. We've got musicians, we've even got a farmer, we've got a perfumer, we've got so many different businesses, and that is their passion, that is their service to the world. When we put the service out into the world, you're reconnecting those three pillars, those first three pillars of self, soul, and service, really place you in alignment with source. And source is your essence, your magic. It's who you are at the fundamental base. We are all human beings. dressed as human beings for a while, but the truth of us is that we're all source. And isn't it a fun game of hide and seek to hide that light under a human and, get all bent out of shape of over human stuff and things like that, when the real truth is that our real light is that we're always whole and complete. And here, at being human for a while, we can pretend that we're broken or this broke us, and oh my God, isn't this, and it's glorious. And in the experience, the human experience is glorious. And when we connect with the pillar of the soul, which is what we teach in Lightweb, is really deep, deep soul and source connection. And so that is the process, and it is about embodying each of those pillars. So the pillars also have what we call shadow web archetypes. So the shadow web is when those pillars are not embodied at all. And when we are in the other side, because Skylar teaches everything is a spectrum. So these pillars have a spectrum too. So on one side, for instance, let's use Be Your Own Rescue because it's a really good example. So when Be Your Own Rescue is in its alignment, the pillar of the soul is in alignment. You are your own rescue. You are the one that can lead yourself. But when you're out of alignment, it produces an archetype called the energy vampire. And so your worldview in the energy vampire is my life sucks, just like a vampire. Right? And you feel drained just like the victim of a vampire, right? So you feel drained and you feel like your life sucks, and it really creates this energy vampire. And that's really just that pillar out of alignment. That's all it is. We can get very upset being drained, and we can be very upset that life sucks, but actually all it is it's the pillar of the soul, and it's your soul that is out of alignment. Move the soul back into alignment. You will be the one that can lead yourself. You will be the one that will know, like you know, like you know, like you know, that you are enough to do the thing. So yeah, that's how the framework works. When we embody all these pillars, Skylar has another beautiful teaching, which is source does not know broke. So the embodiment of the self, the embodiment of the soul, the embodiment of your service aligns you so powerfully to source. And since source does not know broke, when you're in the embodiment of all of those energies, you will not know broke. You will know the abundance that you already are, because we're not introducing you into something that you're not. We're helping to uncover what it is that you are, which is the difference.
Yeah. And just being able to step into that space is it's kind of magical.
Yeah, it is. It's a magical. I mean, this is why we say that when you are a unified being of source energy, it is be magic. That your being is literally magic, because the essence of who you are is magic. And so when you live in that aligned state, life becomes magical, and magic stuff happens all the time around you, and amazing miracles unfold and all the things. And it's all you doing that. It's all you doing that because you're just so in alignment with your true essence. And it's my dearest, deepest wish that more people knew this, because I spent so many years outside of these teachings, as Skylar likes to remind me, gathering evidence of the other side of the spectrum that I live on now, right? But it also makes the side of the spectrum that I live on now so much sweeter, right? Because I have had years and years of that deep, deep contrast where I was wading through the crap, basically. And then now I can enjoy what I have so much more because I have the context of what it was like to have nothing.
It, it's such an easy switch, but it's not simple. There's like it takes some work. I mean, you can intellectually think, oh, I can just do this.
Mm.
And, there are people that do just do it, but usually it helps if you're around other people in community that are all moving in this direction, because you're going to run up against the people that are like, they're so stuck in victimhood that they want to drag you back into it. And it's really hard to be by yourself in trying to move into this new paradigm of existence, which is really what we're talking about here. It changes the people that are around you change, not because you push them away, just because you don't vibrate in an energy that attracts them anymore.
They do. I mean, I remember when I was really working on my vibration and frequency, I went through a period of time where I felt like I had become Norman no mates. So that's a lovely little British saying there, like Norman no mates. You had no friends, no mates. And I was in that energy, I started telling that as my poor little me story. Poor little me, I have no mates. Poor little me, all my friends are gone. Poor little me, I'm not a vibrational match for any of these people anymore that have been in my life, and I don't really really gel with them anymore, and things like that. And there wasn't any like fisticuffs or breakup or anything like that. It was just simply
No, they
like they
just
simply
go
like
away.
disappeared. But as I was mid in my Pearl on Me story, I realized like, huh, you're a sacred creator, and yet you've not asked the universe for new friends. And so I sat down and I said, okay, well, I sat down and I thought, well, let's be really strategic about these friends, because I don't want to be back in this place of Norman no mates. I want friends for life, you know, and because it was really, really important to me to be working on myself, and I knew that this was going to be a lifelong journey. I ordered friends from the universe. So I sat down and I was really strategic about it. And I said, well, here's the type of people that I want. And, you know, I want people with a great sense of humor. I want people who really get the need for the internal work. I want people who are as committed to the internal work as I am, so that as I evolve, they're evolving alongside me, they're evolving with me. I would like to have friends that, you know, that love the finer things in life. So I never have to apologize for desiring beautiful, incredible VIP experiences and things like that. I want friends who are like, yes, we're with you, girlfriend, let's go VIP. And so all of the things that I wanted for my life, and I sat down and so I made my orders to the universe. And then a couple of weeks later, and this was before you know, I still had my shops at this point in time. So I've been an entrepreneur since the age of 23. And I used to have, you know, designer clothing shops. So I had my shops at the time, it was a week that I was selling my shops. I was literally selling the business, and this business had been my baby. And this course came up at the Arthur Findlay College, which is a college for mediumship in London. And something inside of me said, you need to be on that. And I was in the process of selling my business. The money that I was getting from the business was literally going to pay off debt. There was nothing left. And I had no like real money to do it. And I took a chance and a gamble, and I said, okay, I'm going to stick this on a credit card and I'm going to figure it out. Like we'll worry about that once we're there, you know, but like something in me told me I just needed to be there. And so I flew down to London, and I got to the Arthur Findlay College, and I got handed my room key because it's a residential college. You stay there for a week, you do a course in mediumship. It's very intense, really beautiful container, really fun. And I step off the lift, and I am 5'2", so I am looking for my room number. I cannot find it. No doors have any numbers on them. They've told me my room number. I'm getting very frustrated. A very, very glamorous woman steps off the lift. I thought I would be funny and turned around and said to her, I think you have to be bloody psychic in this place to find the room numbers. Remembering it is a college for psychic development. And she extends a perfectly manicured finger and points above the door, which is so out of my line of sight because I'm only 5'2". So I felt about 2 inches high. So I scramble into my room and I open the door and I chuck my suitcase in, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, that's how to make an impression, Joanna. My goodness, you know. And then later on, we had to meet at this like little meeting point inside. It's like a big old manor house. It's an incredible, you know, it's like an old manor house. I call it Hogwarts for mediums. And so we're there, and And this woman, that I've just made a complete fool of myself, slides up next to me and it starts chewing my ear off, like really, really chatting to me. And I'm thinking, why are you speaking to me? I've literally made a prize idiot of myself. Um, by the end of the week, I knew we would be best friends for life. She lives in Northern Ireland and we have been friends for about 18 years now. And, we have been really, really incredible friends, and the amount of synchronicities that we have. And, I'm so glad that I followed that intuition of like that. And um, she's a medium. She's also a hypnotherapist, and she's always continually working on herself, working on her own development and things like that. And we've stayed a vibrational match. And just shortly after coming back, a couple of other friendships that I had in my life at that time really, really deepened. And so one of my other best friends is a woman who's worked for me many times, Leanne. And she's still, she's always got some course on the go. She's always learning, expanding, and again, we have remained firm friends because she does the inner work, I do the inner work, and we've just remained a vibrational match. And it's a joy to spend time with these people. And so, yeah, if you find yourself in that place of Norman no mates, don't worry, you're a sacred creator. You can create friendships that can last. You can create whatever it is that you want and whatever it is that you wanted, you desire. But I ordered myself new friends from the universe, and the universe delivered the best crew a girl can have.
I love that story. I've I've experienced things like that myself where all of my friends are all over the world and they don't actually live in my town. They live other places, but I get to talk to them all the time because we have the internet, which is so
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. I live in Scotland. My best friend lives in Northern Ireland, and so yeah, and it's like it's so good now that, we have the internet. We can talk as often as, as we do, and things like that. But what's really fun is that, she flew over to Edinburgh recently and we went to the Abraham Hicks
Mhm.
event, and it was, and we tore it up in Edinburgh, and it was amazing. It was so much fun, and so it really does feel special when we get to see each other in person.
Yeah. And all the more reason for people to connect with you because you offer containers where you can meet other people that are on the same sort of spiritual journey that you're on. And they talk about the universe expanding. Well, I think we as beings are always expanding. We can be contracting too, but I choose to believe that those who want the world to be a better place will make the world a better place and expand and connect with others who are expanding so it will lift the whole place up to a much better
Yeah, I mean, when
space.
I see some of the friendships that have come out of the containers that I have, like the
Mhm.
programs that I have and the groups that are there, and these are friendships that will last a lifetime, and I love it. Some of my students will like post pictures and we're like, we had a meetup. We've spoken over the last 2 years in Joanna's group, and like here we are finally meeting in person, and such a glorious moment. Like it's so powerful. And, sometimes I always love that thing where they say, like before you diagnose yourself with depression, make sure that you're not surrounded by assholes. And what I love about that is that, I live in the north of Scotland, and and I have lots of weird and wonderful ideas, and it was the internet that I found my tribe. It was the internet that I found the people, and they necessarily weren't on my doorstep to begin with. They're starting, more and more people in my local area, funnily enough, now are starting to find me. But, it was that internet, it was that international audience that I found, and I just know how much those relationships have meant the world to me. And knowing that inside my programs, inside my containers, that other women are meeting their people. They might look around them and they might have lots of like Debbie Downers and negative Nells and, and things like that. But, they meet these people online, and it starts to elevate their vibration, starts to elevate their frequency. And it comes full circle, because eventually they become so magnetic to the people in their own hometown that the really good ones, the real positive people in their own hometown, start to gravitate towards them as well. But sometimes we just need that little kickstart of meeting like-minded people, and sometimes those people are strangers on the internet, and it's such a privilege that my work has been able to facilitate that time and time again. So many of my clients have told me, I met my business bestie in your business program, or I met one of my best friends, or we have such a sweet, incredible connection with this person. I met her through your program. And it's like, it's eye-opening, and it's just so humbling and amazing.
Makes you feel like the mama hen. Oh. But
Absolutely. I mama hen in my groups a lot. Like my crew are everything. Like I pour a lot of love into the containers that I create. And it's not only do I have absolute belief in the work that I offer, but I also, have absolute belief in the people who are in my world. And sometimes, I've had clients say to me, you believed when I didn't believe, but you kept the belief alive when I couldn't keep it alive for myself. And then today you hear, the extraordinary results that they're doing, or the incredible things that they're doing. And you think, why? Isn't that a privilege that I got to hold that person's belief while they were having the wobble and feeling maybe weak within their own self? And we've all had those moments. I am not exempt from those moments either. I've had those moments and that's where the power of being in like a group program, or the power of being in part of a container, or a process, can really help, because it is hard, right? The world, not only does your brain have a little negative bias thing going on, but the conditioning of the world is, and you just need to pick up any newspaper or any kind of news media. We can really see how that negative bias is being driven. And the things that have come out about social media, the whistleblowers in social media as well. We even know that the algorithm favors the neg. And all of that is a daily onslaught for every human being. And so, isn't it wonderful that you can, I don't know, get your PJs on and sit and scroll your social media and jump into a container where people are really believing in better, believing in something amazing? Like, what a gift.
yeah, and it's so easy to get into this kind of a space where you're trying to expand, and the people around you are trying to make you believe you're crazy, or a
Yeah.
conspiracy theorist, or whatever label they want to put on you
I
to
think we
make
need a
you
new
less.
Yeah, I think we need a new label for conspiracy theories, because, I mean, really, in the last 3 years, those people have been spitting truths, and they're all coming out now. They're all coming out now. So
I
I
know.
think I think we need to start calling them truth tellers, right? And the truth is always uncomfortable when it first comes out, isn't it?
It is, and it's hard to stand by yourself, and that's where your containers are just like so special. And you're not telling people. You just have to follow one path, pick one thing and stick on that one thing, because you do so much. I mean,
Mm.
you are a multi-passionate individual. You're the full deal. You just and you encourage that in other people. It's not like you can only do this one thing and we're just going to do it this way, and then you're going to be little clones of me. It's
No,
not like that
absolutely
at
not.
all.
Like,
It's just like,
no. It's about shining your light. The only time that I encourage you to be multi-passionate is if that is who you are.
"Hmm,
And a lot of people who enter my world are multi-passionate. They have been really, their star-spangled selves have been really squished down by society. Society's told them pick their one thing and do it well and like that. And when you are multi-passionate and you have a soul that calls you to doing many things, You know, and there's a lot of things that's broken with that, because what happens is that not only do you feel very stressed that you have a soul that is calling you to do many, many things, but then you try and do it the kind of more neurotypical way, which is to do it linearly. So how do you do it? How do you do it? Well, you have to start the job, then you get to the middle of the job, and then you got to finish the job. And multi-passionate people, if we actually go with, I call it butterfly energy. So just if you've ever watched butterflies moving between plants, they'll alight on a flower for a little while, and then they move along, and then they're on the next flower. But do you know what? They were like, hey, I kind of like that flower, so they go back to the other one, and they flit around. And the way to leverage a multi-passionate soul, or the way to leverage a multi-passionate personality, is to allow the passion to lead, which means this is the fear that comes in, right? Because this is where the judgment from other people have conditioned you to fear this is, oh, you start so many things, but you never finish them, right? And so now you're flaky. Now you aren't. Now the worst thing about you is not the fact that you're multi-passionate. The worst thing about you is that you're flaky, because you start lots of things and you never finish them. But what I have found is if you're left to be in your being, you will naturally gravitate back to the flower, right? That you started on that flower, but then you were like, nah, I'm not feeling that now. And then you move on to something else. But then so I'll give you an example of something in my own life. Is I've written a number of oracle decks and things, and I've written a deck that's going to be published in the future at some point in time. But it's called Portals of Light, and I was really gung-ho about it, and I started, I opened up my Google Doc and I started writing it, and I channeled all the names of the cards and everything like that. And then I left it, and then on Mother's Day here in the UK, a really weird thing happened. I just was like, I just want to write this thing on my computer, because normally over the weekend I do not open my computer. I have usually a boundary around that, but I had this idea in my head, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to open my computer and I'm just going to write it down while it's fresh, because this is a good idea and I really need to kind of write it down. And before I knew it, I finished the entire card deck. And I don't even know where that power came from. Like, I am not even capable of typing that fast, but the energy came, the essence came, and it really felt like paint by numbers, because I'd done all the groundwork about 7 months before. And the notion had taken me, and I left it, and then I came back, and so I am multi-passionate, and that means I do a lot of things. In the past, you would have found me apologizing for that and being like, oh, and feeling embarrassed when people said, oh my God, you do so much. Now I revel in it and I relish it. So I turned 49 last year in August. So I thought, okay, I'm entering my 50th year on this planet. And I'd had an idea 6 years prior to write a set of fiction books. And my fiction book just yesterday, in fact, went off to beta readers. So the first humans are about to read my manuscript, my book, and hopefully they will help me whip it into shape into a book. But I am really, really, it's been a big thing, and I'm really, really excited about it. And I normally write nonfiction and self-help books and oracle decks. That's my normal jam. So it's been really, really exciting to write about witches and vampires and werewolves and all manner elves and fairies and little folk and all of that. It's been a lot of fun to write my Elemental Heart series. But yeah, and this is what's floating my boat at the moment. I began writing that book just for myself. Then I got an intuitive nudge to hire a book coach. So weird. I knew this book coach from she's also an author. She's a contemporary romance author. I'd known her from another program that I'd been in, so another connection that I'd made online, right? And
Mhm.
I'd known her from that. She was a really, really amazing, and she still is an amazing graphic designer. That was her jam. She used to help people with their branding and graphics and stuff. And I used to always kind of like Jones on her website, like I used to see her come up on my timeline, and I used to be like, oh God, that, because I love design. So I was like, oh, that's a good design. I like that, So I always liked her stuff. And we had spoken briefly here and there. She's also in Scotland. And she, in December, I reached out to her in December, and she had written, she had said that she had just got a publishing deal for her contemporary romance. Now, she'd already written loads of books and self-published and gone viral on TikTok with her books. And
Wow.
I remember at the time thinking, how wonderful that you have a really successful career. And even though you have such a successful career with the branding and with, the graphic design, that you're willing to try something brand new. That takes courage in this world, because we're so judged. If you're doing something and you're doing it well, do not deviate from that, right? Like, don't start a brand new business that you know nothing about, like writing and becoming a fiction writer. But she did just that. So I reached out to her and said, congratulations, I am absolutely made up for you for getting this, deal. And I just wanted to say that I've really, really admired that you were willing to like even try this, like this, that took a lot of courage, and especially because you had a successful business already, and to, make that transition into another business. And congratulations on making this one a success as well. And she said to me, actually, it's funny that you said that, because the only reason I'm a writer is something that you said. And I went, what? And I said, she said, I caught you on a live stream one day, and she said it was like you spoke to my soul, and you said, no one is coming to rescue you. Nobody's, if you want your life to be good, you want your life to be better, like, you have to be the one to lead yourself. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to give you whatever it is that you want and desire. Like, you have to be the one. And she said, I'd always, always wanted to be a writer. And it was that moment that made me realize, if I want to be this writer, nobody is coming to give me that opportunity. I have to be the one to lead myself. So she said, I wrote the words, be your own rescue, and I put them on my vision board. And I said, amazing. She said, 2 weeks later, it was during the pandemic, 2 weeks later, this woman who I'd read all her books, I was really, like, really a big fan of her writing. She offered a free course on how to write your first draft, and she would teach you how to become an amazing, like, romance writer. And it was free, because it was a pandemic. And she was like, I want to give back to my audience. I want, like, a lot of you are home. This is the perfect time for you guys to write a book. And so she was like, she was homeschooling, and she was home, and she still was kind of like running her business, but like, lady at a time, right? So she was like, good,
Mhm.
I can do this. And so at the end of that program that she took with that woman, she had written her first book, who has right to date, so sold thousands of copies. And so she turned around and she said, well, so really, in a way, you were kind of instrumental in this journey. And here I was giving myself permission to do the thing and to write the book that I had been wanting to write for about 6 years. And it was this full circle moment of a person who had been, inspired by something that I said and started a brand new career. And she just blew the lid on writing and blew my mind, because I honestly did not think that this could be an income stream. And then, I discovered that her coach, which was the woman that introduced her, is making $1 million months from fiction. And that was a
Wow.
moment I was like, oh, okay. Like, if we do a really good job with this could be something. And who knew that fiction books could sell in that level. And since then, there's just been so much evidence. I've come across so many writers that I've came across. In fact, last month I came across a writer who has got 3 titles, every single title just on Kindle alone made $1 million on each title, like 1.4 million, 1.6 million, and 1.2 million. And there's 3 titles. She made over $4 million just from 3 books that she had written in 1 month. Like, that is insane. And so, yeah, it's opened this new world for me, and I'm just like so excited about it. But I'm more excited about sharing the story. And I know that, you know, one of the things that you often learn in the $1 million experiment is that um, if you follow the light that is source, the money becomes the side effect, you know. And so, yeah, I know that if this is meant to be something that will turn into something, the money will be the side effect. The fun is in writing right now. So yeah, that's but I live a multi-passionate life for sure. And I'm always, in fact, we've just produced a music album called $1 Million Manifestival. So it's all songs that are all me and my husband wrote the songs, and then with the power of AI was able to have them all recorded, and they're amazing. They're really, really fun. And producing this album called $1 Million Manifestival, and it's because I hate going to the gym and I hate doing housework. And I thought if I could combine going to the gym and doing housework with manifesting, I'm in. Like, that's
Right.
not right. Like, that makes it fun. And so all the songs are all about mindset, and they're all about, you know, how you don't chase and you attract, and how you are the architect of your dreams, and all of these positive messages infusing into your brain with absolutely sick beats so that you can, you know, get that housework done really easy, or you can get that gym time in really easy and not really mind that the time is passing because you're having such a dance party in your headphones instead, you know. So that's something that, and you know, I would never have thought in a million years, even 2 years ago, that I would have produced a music album, you know.
There's so many things and opportunities in the world right now. It's just
It's
like
insane. It's insane. So many. So many. And I think it's being on the vibration and frequency of opportunity. I have a really cool story, if I have time to share it, about opportunity, because opportunity requires a level of consciousness. And so here's my take on opportunity. Opportunity, a lot of people will talk about luck. Now, I don't believe in luck, which is kind of a weird thing, right? Because I teach spiritual things, and it's like, surely that should be your jam. But here's how I see luck. I see luck is preparedness that meets opportunity. And when the two come together, it forms what we call luck. Isn't that person lucky? No, that person was prepared and they met an opportunity. And the thing is that most humans are meeting opportunities daily. They're just not able, they're not prepared to take the opportunity. And so I have a story that really demonstrates the kind of the consciousness of this, right? So I had a client who was a teacher, but she was trying to build a kind of side hustle business that she was hoping was going to be her like business and going to be her main source of income. And she wanted to transition out of the teaching. And so she arrives in her session and she is in a bad mood, right? Because she has just been dumped with, they do these things called in-service days here in the UK, where it's like teacher training, right? And so they do so much work. And then at the end, like, one of the teachers is like, it's their job to organize something fun for everyone else, right? So she's just been dumped with this job and she's a bit upset about it, right? But she's also really upset that she really wants to have time to grow her business, and now she's, you know, being now she's had, like, you know, like, now they've put this on her, right? And so she is really in a grump. And so I'm like, being a teacher is really stressful. And she went, yeah. And I was like, and you teach stress management? She goes, yeah, that's why I teach stress management. Right. And I said, and you want to grow your business? And she went, yeah, I want to grow my business. And now I have to organize this in-service day. I said, with teachers who are stressed. She went, yeah, they're so stressed. And like she could not see where I was going with it. Right? I'm like, and so in there, and I was like, um, is there a budget? Is there a budget for doing the fun thing? And they, yeah. She goes, there's loads of money for doing the fun thing. I said, yeah, like, isn't that funny? And I said, and you have a business that teaches stress management, and you have to do a workshop for people who are chronically stressed because teaching is no joke. And she was like, aha, what's your point? And I was like, could you pay yourself and teach them your skills? And she was just like, oh my God, that's perfect. And it was like this epiphany moment. And that shows you that you have to be at the level of consciousness to capitalize on the opportunity, because otherwise the opportunity presents itself to you as a problem. And most people get swept into the problem and they never appreciate the opportunity that is there. So one of my number one things that I can teach your audience today is, when you are faced with a problem, ask yourself if it is indeed actually an opportunity. Is there an opportunity for something new here? Is there an opportunity here that you're just not seeing because you're currently at the level of consciousness where an opportunity presents itself as a problem and not the opportunity that it actually is? Because everything has a different level of consciousness. And in order to appreciate opportunities, most people's problems are actually at higher levels of consciousness opportunities. And this is, one of the cool things. But that story is such a, I'm so grateful to that client, because she's just giving me that perfect story for when we can't even see the wood for the trees, we can't even see that opportunity. And, and wasn't it luck that here's her trying to grow her business, right? And this is why I don't believe in luck, because it is preparedness meets opportunity. You have to be prepared for the opportunity.
I love that story. Like I could see where you were going right in the beginning when you started talking about it. But most people, they're caught in it, and it just like right over their
Absolutely.
heads.
I did not blame her for 1 second, because I have probably been there 100 times myself, where I couldn't see the opportunity because I was so focused on the problem.
Mhm, mhm. So how do people find you, Joanna, if they want to work with you, explore what you're doing? I know
Absolutely.
you have the 100K codes. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you jump on my website, joannahunter.com, I do have a lovely free kind of webinar for you it's an instant download. You just give me your email and we will send it right along. It's called the 100K codes. And it's about how to make or the energetics of how to make 100K in a month, 100K in a year, 100K in 6 months, 100K in a couple of months. So we call it the 100K code. So instead of saying like, here's how to make 100K in a year or whatever, we've had students and people who have had like 100K months in my world, and we even have a couple of students who have had 100K days, which is amazing. And so the codes are really the energetics of how to bring that in. So that's totally free for you to enjoy there as well. I am on all social media and made it super simple for everybody. So you can find me at Joanna Hunter, COM. So the website is joannahunter.com. And then if you take that dot out and just squish it all together, you get Joanna Hunter, COM. And that's my handle on all social media that I'm on. So you'll find me on TikTok, you'll find me on Instagram and things like that. And if you are interested in following my author journey, I do have a new handle, which is author Joanna Hunter. And you will find me on Instagram and TikTok in those two handles. So yeah, quite exciting.
Very cool. Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been an amazing conversation. I've really been looking forward to talking to you again.
Thank you so much for having me. And I would love if you popped in the comments if you're listening to this. What was your biggest takeaway today? That would be amazing. And I will make some time to hopefully be able to look through those comments as well. So please do leave Jill some love as well and pop a comment in, and do follow and subscribe to her podcast.
Thank you. To learn more about Joanna and Skylar and explore all the various ways she can help you too become a conscious millionaire, be sure to visit joannahunter.com. We'll put the link in the show notes below. Thank you for tuning in with us today. If you have a podcast or interested in starting one to get your message in front of our huge and active audience, be sure to reach out to us at support@heartlifecoach.com. We love to help spiritual entrepreneurs and coaches amplify their voice and monetize their mission, and offer a variety of ways to do this on Substack. Join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.